every one of us on this panel, I hope, want to be sure that we have the ability to have an election that is well run, where people have their votes counted, and many are going to be using the Postal Service. Let me start, Mr. DeJoy, by just asking you a general question. Do you support absentee voting, and do you support voting by mail generally?
I'm going to vote by mail. Yes. I voted by mail for a number of years. The Postal Service will deliver every ballot and process every ballot in time that it receives.
Well, I appreciate that. So you do support voting by mail?
I do. That's interesting. I think the American public should be able to vote by mail, and the Postal Service will support it. So I guess that's yes.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, the states are going to decide this, not the Congress or not the post office, and many states are going to do it. I mean, in Ohio, we've had absentee voting for a couple of decades now. That's no fault, meaning that you don't have to give a reason, and it works quite well. I vote every year by absentee because I don't know where the heck I'm going to be in Washington or in Ohio based on our schedule. So it's worked well, and we also are going to have in Ohio a lot of other ways for people to vote. We're going to be sure that it's easy to vote in Ohio, and it's hard to cheat in Ohio, and I think that's the important thing. There's been a lot of news coverage about the Postal Service sending letters to 46 states, including Ohio and D.C., to let them know they can't guarantee all ballots cast by mail will arrive on time. Is this due to a lack of funding, which is what many are saying, or is it due to state laws on voting and the time it takes to turn around receiving and delivering the ballots?
Senator, this was not a change from anything that we have done in previous years. It was just more detail and more emphasis put on it, partly because of the expected rise in vote by mail, and also the pandemic. And what the team set out to do is make the election boards and then eventually the American public pretty simple, what our processes were. And therefore, to guarantee that if you follow these processes, there was no extra Herculean efforts on our part to get your ballot in, which therefore mitigated the risk of it potentially not getting there. Yeah. So mailing.
Well, I think that's important to note, that this is something that has been a problem for years, including previous elections. You sent out warnings in previous elections. And look, I think the post office has got to coordinate better with state election systems. I think state election systems has got to coordinate better with the post office. Mm-hmm. I mean, in Ohio, as an example, the time frame between when you can cast your ballot and when it is postmarked, and you can get a ballot as late as Saturday before the election, and to get that to the post office and back to you, and then date stamp before Monday, is very hard to do logistically. I think that's one of the things that your letter pointed out, was to these state systems, be sure and leave adequate time. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. First of all, it was not my letter. It was a letter from our general counsel. But yeah, pointing out all the different variations that we could experience and how fast we could process it. But yes, there are times we get the ballots. Ballots were sent out the day before the election. It's almost impossible for the voter to vote, for the ballot to get to the voter, for the voter to vote, and for it to get back in time for the election. So this was a very, very well thought out effort to safeguard the election, not to get in the way of safeguard the processing of ballots, not to get in the way of it.
What advice would you give voters? This is an opportunity for you to speak to the voters of Ohio and the country. Would you advise them to wait till the last minute, or would you advise them to leave at least a week?
The general word around here is vote early. Vote early.
I think that's really important to tell people because, again, under Ohio's law and a lot of other laws, the time frame is really close. If you request an absentee ballot, you got to be sure that it can be delivered in time.